Cooper Clever, 1972 here. Of course, by now you got to know me as Brian, of course. But anyways, I'm a little late in the game to this, but I'm doing my review now. It's of course it's Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, as you could tell by the title of this video, and it stars of course Paul Newman and Robert Redford. Also stars Katherine Ross, who was in The Graduate. She was the love interest of Dustin Hoffman. But probably people that are in the know that as well. Conrad Hall did the cinematography for this. He would later on do the cinematography for American Beauty. He won an Oscar for this film. He also won an Oscar, I believe, for American Beauty, if I'm not mistaken. And that film was directed by Sam Mendes, who would also direct, I think, right after that, Road Perdition, which Conrad Hall also worked on, and I think that was the last film Conrad Hall worked on before he passed away. I believe he's dead now, almost positive on that. This film was directed by George Roy Hill, and it comes with a making of feature on this particular DVD. I borrowed this from the library where I work at. It also comes with a commentary on here. Mostly it's the cinematographer Conrad Hall and the production assistant talking about the film. You hear little bits and pieces of George Roy Hill talking during the commentary, but not much. I don't think. I don't think I could hear his voice. It was, yeah, basically it was the production assistant and the cinematographer talking for most of the commentary. So, anyways, it doesn't focus on two people that actually lived, two Western outlaws named Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid. I don't think that was their real names, but that's what they went by. And they would rob banks, and so I don't think I'm going to get into too much detail about this because it's been covered by the Grumpy Old Gentleman on film, and I don't want to sound like I'm repeating things over and over again. So I'm just gonna. I think I'm gonna try and do this short and to the point, and just try to, say as much as I can as brief amount of time as I possibly can. So my thoughts about the film were. It started off very slowly. I don't mind films that start off slowly. I like sort of how it slowly makes its way from black and white to color. That it had an interesting start that way. It starts off with a projection on a wall of a robbery, like a silent film in one of those old Nickelodeon kind of things. And I found out that particular series of shots, that particular part of the film was shot by a guy who worked for Cecil B. DeMille. And George Roy Hill had reservations about him working with him on the film because he wanted to shoot that particular part of the movie. He really wanted to have his hands in almost all the film. And this guy whose name I can't remember, who did, I guess it's the second unit photography, did that part for him, and he was satisfied with the results. I also like the humor in the film. At the start with the guy, they decide to rob a train that has a safe on it. And they blow up this train where the I don't want to give too much away of this film, but they blow up the this one train car, and it has a safe in it, and then they do it. They try they go out and do it again, and they find a safe that is uh, um, much more um, security laden, much more um, booby trapped or just harder to blow up than the previous safe. And there's a lot of humor in that particular scene because the guy that is refusing to open the railroad car where the safe is, his arm is now in a sling from the previous explosion. And then they have this woman who's riding the train, and she says, "I want this train to go. I got to go someplace. You can't hold me up here. I'm a woman, and I'm not going to stand for this." And then they grab hold of her, and they put a hand over her mouth, and Paul Newman, I think it's Paul Newman. I don't think it's Robert Redford's character. He mouths the rest of the words that she says. So the guy working for the bank safe guy opens the door because of that. And then there's a scene, and then that particular scene, they blow up the railroad car again, but this time they use too much dynamite, and the railroad car is blown to like smithereens. And there's a funny exchange of dialogue where Redford's character is saying to Paul Newman, "You think you put enough dynamite in there, Butch?" So there's that funny kind of exchange of dialogue, and so and just before that, they had the famous song "Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head" song. Um, so it has that nice kind of not rigidity, but like nice interplay, like nice mix of humor and seriousness to it. But it does get serious pretty fast because the people that the bank, the guy that owns the money that's on the safe, he's not very entertained by Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid and their gang robbing his safes. So he hires a bunch of what would you call those people? Lawmen or they're not bounty hunters, but they're like professional people, and they're hired basically to kill the Paul Newman character and the Robert Redford character. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. They're hired to they're hired to work until they kill Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid. So all that's pretty good. That part of the film is pretty good. And where they're being chased, and you only see the people chasing them in distant shots. They used a telephoto lens so that they look like they're coming closer, but they're actually very far away. But with telephoto lenses, you compress space together. So, like with a wide angle, you make things look farther away than they actually are. With a telephoto, you compress space, but you still have that nice effect. I think it's a 50 millimeter lens they used. I think that's what Conrad Hall was saying in the commentary. So that's all great. And how they did there was some fascinating shots, like they get to a point where they have to just jump off a cliff into a river. And the behind the scenes stuff about how they did that was fascinating. They had the Robert Redford and Paul Newman jump into what do you call that? A safety mat off of was it maybe less of a cliff than the one that's pictured in the movie, and then the actual shot where they go right into the river. Those are stunt people, and they shot that on the 20th Century Fox. Was it 20th Century? I think it's 20th Century Fox that made this film. Yes. So they shot that the scene where they fall into the river in the 20th century Fox backlot. They put up some. They formed a river, and they like ran some fans to put in some rapids, and they put in like matte paintings. This is the days before they had computerized matte paintings. That so the camera was set a certain way, and the painting was placed in front of the camera. So everything had to be lit just right, and the the stuntman had to go like that, in the certain place on the frame of the film, so everything would look authentic, So and all that's fantastic. And then the film, like some of the other people have mentioned on this particular film, then it started. Then there was a scene that it became awkward, and that was the scene where they decide to go west, which is a bunch of still photographs, and I think maybe that particular part of the film where they go to New York City and just go around New York City and to look at the sights. I think maybe that didn't work because I think it was Daryl Zanuck was saying to the director, I can't let you shoot actual moving picture footage on these sets, because they decided to use the sets from Hello Dolly. So he had to use still footage. He had to use still shots, and that really took me out of the picture. And I don't see why we needed to see that either, as some of the other people have echoed on this particular movie, on their videos as well. They could have cut that out, and maybe, I don't know, linking out the South America part. I'm not sure, but and then when they get to South America, then it started picking up steam again and getting better. The Burt Bacharach score sounds a little dated to me in a little way. But yeah, the cinematography was pretty beautiful. I liked how it ended. Pretty fascinating how they chose to end this film with a still image and leave the audience's mind up to the imagination as to what happens next. And on the documentary was saying like there was rumors that which one was it? Butch Cassidy might have survived and went back to the West, but some people say like some people have said on their videos that there's not much of a chance they would have survived. I mean, if you see all those soldiers that are surrounding that that area where they're going to leave, that enclosed area that they're in, with all of those soldiers circled around them, there's probably no chance they would have survived. I said this in a comment to some other person's video. I was at the Tribeca Film Festival a few years back. Maybe it was 2011, or maybe it was further back. And Sam Shepard, who's a playwright, he played the Sundance Kid, I believe it's a Sundance Kid, in a film called Blackthorn, and it's sort of a what-if movie, as if he actually survived that actual particular scenario. But, I guess with this particular film, even though you don't see them getting shot, it's pretty definite they're going to die, because it's just surrounded by a whole phalanx of soldiers, and it's just impossible for them to survive. So, yeah, so now it comes to the point, I guess, in my review where I would have to say where I would place this as far as, is it a good film? Is it a decent movie? Is it a great film? So out of 5 stars, I'm going to give this film probably, because of the fact of the still image part and the New York part that sort of took me out of the film for a little while. I'm going to have to not give it 5 stars because of that. So I'm going to have to give it, I think it's a good film, but because of that still picture montage in New York, I'm going to give it I'm going to give it 3.5 stars out of 4. I think that's what I'll give it. Yeah, so 3.5 stars. Little better than good. I give it that, I guess. All right. Thanks very much for watching. The Grumpy Old Gentleman will be doing another video in March, I guess, sometime in there. They haven't picked their movie yet, but when they do and they've done their videos, I'll throw my 2 cents into whatever movie they pick. All right. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the near future. Bye now.